Hi, and welcome to A Cup of Tea with Stephen. And joining me today, well, let me just say, they say the pen is mightier than the sword, and this woman has fought her way through the British school system. She's become a #1 author in the United Kingdom and has just risen in the charts in the US. I'd like to welcome Samantha Lee Howe. How are you?
Oh, hi, Stephen. I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. I mean, I just can't wait to chat to you. You have a new book out called The House of Killers, and I understand it's not about a vegan, is it?
No, it isn't. No. Oh, no, The House of Killers is the first part of a trilogy. And it's basically, if you take Killing Eve and you mix it with Jason Bourne, that's kind of a kicking off point for the story. It's not, of course, either of those things. It's a completely original story. And it's about an assassin called Neva who suddenly becomes very self-aware. She works for this, huge conglomerate called the Network, who trained her from a childhood to become a killer. And there's also this MI5 agent in there as well, who is on her tail. So that's roughly the start of the book.
I'm going to ask you, whenever I sit and watch the Bond Identity or James Bond, how do you write a car chase?
Well, I know exactly what you're saying there.
Right, and I can't think, oh, and he went round the corner fast. How do you do that?
Well, it's a funny old thing. When I'm writing, I actually see it like a movie in my head. So basically what I do is I have these pictures in the back of my head. This is what I want to show. This is the scene I want to show. And I think about the senses as well. So I'm thinking about what would you hear? What would you see? What would you touch? The usual, the five senses.
Yeah.
But I'm just translating that imaginary picture from out of my head onto the page, really. So I'll do it blow by blow, detail by detail as I see it.
And what made you go into writing? I know you were teaching, but what made you go into writing?
Well, I started writing at a very young age. I was 11 years old after reading my very first adult fiction book, which was called The Collective by John Fowles.
Yeah.
And that was a thriller, a very intense thriller. And I remember closing the pages of the book as I read the last pages and thinking, wow, I want to be a writer. I'm going to be a writer. And that was this moment of light bulb going on above my head. And after that, I was always writing stories, always ambitious to become a writer. I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was actually fan fiction. And I used to write Dracula fan fiction as a child. Everything was Christopher Lee, because I used to watch all the Hammer movies.
You're not terrified as a child?
No, I used to love them. I just loved horror. I used to stay up late at night with my sister watching all these horrible films.
Your last book, Stranger in Our Bed, right? It went
Yes.
to one all over the place, and it still is at the top of the charts in many places. I understand it's being made into a film.
It is, and that's been very exciting. I mean, last year was a kind of bittersweet year for us all, obviously, with the constant lockdowns, the state of the world. However, I was just very lucky that Terry Dwyer, producer of Buffalo Dragon, discovered my book and decided she was going to make a film of it. Yeah, so very exciting.
Who's starring in the film?
There's going to be Samantha Bond, who plays my character Isadora. There is Emily Berrington. People might know her from Humans, being one of her latest things. Yeah. Her husband, Ben Lloyd Hughes. Joseph Marcel, people will probably know him from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah. And of course, Nina Wadia. A great lineup.
You must be just over the moon if that's your first film. I mean, so well done. Are you leaping up and down?
Yes, I really was. When I heard the cast list, I was just absolutely blown away because it just couldn't be any better.
Now, I know you're happily married to a lovely man, but who would you fantasize about being a stranger in your bed?
Now, my husband knows about this already.
The husband will let you off.
Well, there's two, but one of them I wouldn't like to say because I feel a bit of a cougar, really. Well, actually, I will say after that, you can't say that and then not tell everybody who you mean. Of course, Reggie Jean, who plays the Duke in Bridgerton, he's got all of the women absolutely fantasizing about him now. He's gorgeous. But my absolute favorite is Alexander Skarsgård. Tall, blonde, blue-eyed, what's not to like?
You find yourself when you're writing books now, thinking about them as television projects or film projects as you're writing them, or do you think about that afterwards?
Actually, I do. They're just movies to me in my head, and I really write very visually. So for me, they all transpose easily to film. I think, especially the House of Killers. I've been tweeting that I think Reggie Jean should become Michael, my MI5 agent. He's not taken me up on it yet.
You know, a lot of your books are around, you know, crimes and you know, all sorts of bits and pieces. But you know, if you had a chance, and I've always thought this myself, of getting away with it and committing one, Quentin Crisp always said, glamorous crime, what crime would you commit?
Oh yeah. Do you know, there's lots, because I think
A lot.
obviously there's lots I'd want to do if I thought I wouldn't do it. But you know, that I think probably being a cat burglar, although physically I'm definitely not up to the job, would be very glamorous.
If you had a chance to sit the younger you down, say like 14, 15, and have a chat with her, what advice would you give her?
I think I would tell her not to get married to her first husband. The only trouble is I wouldn't then have my lovely daughter, so it would be a bit of a, I'd have to weigh that one up.
And what about business-wise? You know, about writing, going into writing, would you tell your younger self, starting out in the career, give some advice about writing?
I would say go for it sooner. You know what to do. You know, I would give them the ins of how to do it and go for it sooner, because I do feel I've come to it all in a way, the success side, although I have been writing since 2007 professionally, it does feel like it's taken me a long time to get there, and you know, and age is catching up with me, if you know what I mean.
I know you're like me, you're very impatient. I want everything done tomorrow. And I know you've
Yes.
published books that probably would have been published easier if you'd waited a bit longer. But how did you find self-publishing for yourself? Was it something you would recommend to people, or is it something you would avoid?
I did my very first book. I self-published it, and I didn't intend to. What happened was I'd written it for my master's degree dissertation in creative writing. I knew I had this beautiful book that everybody was raving about, that I'd got great, you know, sort of a great degree from, and I started sending it around, and I didn't know any better. And then a self-publishing company, I didn't realize I'd sent it. I thought they were a proper publisher. I was very naive then. And it wasn't a bad thing for me in the end, because I self-published, but it then won this award in America, because it's independent publishers award called the Forward Magazine Book of the Year Award. It won the silver for best horror novel. And I did get my 3-book deal on that. I mean, I think I wouldn't self-publish personally, because you've got nobody behind you. You've got, one of the wonderful things about having HarperCollins behind me now is that you just feel so supported. They do so much for you to help get the word out. And that, when you're out on your own, is very challenging.
A lot of your books taking you things personally to yourselves, don't they? I mean, you've used your own personal experience. Stranger in Bed deals with something that we're only coming to terms with recently, talking about emotional abuse. We all know about physical abuse, and we know now it's okay that emotional abuse is so wrong. What advice would you give to people that are in that situation to talk about emotional abuse? What advice would you give them?
Very, very, very difficult when you find yourself in a relationship where you are being manipulated, you're being treated as though you're always the wrong person. And at first, it's very hard to see the wood for the trees, that this is what this person's doing to you, and they're gaslighting you in some way as well. But I think once the dawning of that happens, you should definitely start talking about it. Talk to your friends, talk to family, get out there and get away as soon as you can, if you can. I know that's not easy.
Stranger in Bed
But
is
it's
partly based on your own experience from your own abuse with relationship. Was it? Am I right in thinking that?
Well, my ex-husband was very controlling, but I didn't really. This book wasn't written and based on what happened to me, but on somebody else. But I definitely used how that felt. And there was a time he actually had me followed by private detectives as well, which is, I did use that within the book because I had to show how Charlotte felt about being spied on all the time, being watched, you know, being accused of things that you haven't done. And I think it's just one of those things that nepotistic
Yeah.
and, you know, sociopathic characters of that personality do use. You know, they won't stop at anything if they want to control you, and it's a horrible situation to be in. And I was happy to use those experiences though to write something that I felt was very true into the heart.
Do you find, Sam, when you're looking in the papers and you see a story like that and look at the man they're accusing, you think that that could be anyone, that could be, you know, a husband,
Yeah,
mother, and it happens to so many people, much more than
it
we'll
does.
think about it. And
It happens to men and women, not
oh,
just
oh,
women. It happens to everybody.
yeah,
And you know, it's awful that one person feels that they have to control somebody else's life to that degree. It's horrifying, and
yeah.
it says a lot about them, not about the person who's being
Oh,
controlled,
they're
really.
obviously suffering themselves, but you know,
Yeah.
you know, so all they're all saying that, but in reality, you're the one hurting. But listen, let's on a brighter moment. What is the proudest moment of your life?
I think one of the most exciting moments, oh, there's so many. This year has been such a roller coaster for me. Certainly when I got the USA Today bestseller um, email from my from HarperCollins telling me I'd got that, I just couldn't believe it. And I really was very proud. But also standing on the set in November last year when they were filming, and I was watching one of the scenes being filmed from a monitor outside of one of the
Yeah.
bedrooms in this big manor house. And I turned around and I looked at my husband and I went, that's my film. And it was this moment of, oh my goodness, I cannot believe it. That's my film. And I don't ever remember feeling like so in the moment or so proud. And usually you do these things reflectively, but at that moment it dawned on me what a big thing this was and how important it was to my career in the future. And just, it was just an amazing moment.
Wonderful ability. The one thing about your writing is you're pulled into the story almost right away, even though nothing's really happened. Somehow or other, in the first page, you know this character and you want, and it's a great ability you have there. But listen, what advice have you got for
Thank you.
other writers going into? I mean, people always say I'd like to write a book, and I bumped into them 5 years later, and they're still in the first chapter.
Well, I think it's obviously not everybody can do it. Everyone thinks that they've got a book in them. But if you really believe, like I did at 11 years old, that you can be a writer, then I think you just have to keep practicing that skill. It's like you can't go to the gym and start picking up massive weights first off, right? So don't attempt a book first off. Try a short story, finish it, and always finish everything you write. You know,
Yeah.
don't give up. It takes a lot of stamina writing a book. I'm very lucky that I can do it and work on it all day long. But even if you can't and you've got a full-time job, do a few hundred words a night, even if it's 100 words.
Soon adds
And you'll build it up and you'll get better and faster
Yeah,
as time goes on.
it adds up, doesn't it? If you've done a couple of hundred and a few more in the weekend, and you get into it, I think the more it builds, the more you want to write it, don't you?
That's right, absolutely. And I think there's a certain amount of warming your brain up too as well. And the opening chapters, you often rewrite those a lot because they're the start. They're getting you into into the mood, into the story, into the characters. You're learning about the characters at those points.
Now, you're a huge Doctor Who fan, is that correct?
Yes. Well, my husband is. I do like Doctor Who, but he's the fan.
You could dress up as a Doctor Who character for him then.
I never do, but and neither does he. We don't do the cosplay. But I have, I've worn a few steampunky sort of Doctor Who outfits in my time.
Listen, so you've actually written for the Doctor Who franchise, haven't you?
Yes, we have. David and I both wrote a book that was called The White Witch of Devil's End.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's become a novella now, or a novel now, a novelization, but it was actually a screenplay originally,
Yeah.
and it went to DVD, and it's become a is it 5 or 6 part? Do you know, I should know that. Isn't that awful? I've moved on. It's a 6-part drama. Too many things I've written now. I forget half of it.
Now listen, if you get, someone, so many wonderful so much talent out there, who would you like to write for, actor or actress? Give it a choice.
Oh, yeah, there's lots, there's lots. I would actually like to see Alexander Skarsgård in something of mine because I think he is a fantastic actor. I loved him in I think it's Pretty Little Liars or
Yeah.
Pretty Big Lies it
True
was
Blood.
that he was in. He was great in that.
True Blood.
True Blood. Oh yes, of course. I forgot he was Eric in True Blood. Of course, yeah,
I was
yeah.
I was a junkie for that. I couldn't put that
Oh,
down. He was
fantastic.
amazing in it. Absolutely amazing. And what actress would you like to write for?
Actress. I really like Scarlett Johansson, you know. I
Well, I
think
love
I'm,
her.
I'm really aiming high, aren't I here?
I mean, the way you're going, I mean, you're only an hours away from being in say, Beverly Hills. But no, Scarlett Johansson was on RuPaul Drag Race US last week.
Oh,
And
was
it
she?
was great fun. Yeah, really good fun.
Oh,
It was like a real
I
laugh.
love her. I think she's amazing. I
Yeah.
think she's really talented
But you go
and
out
beautiful.
you go out to LA occasionally, don't you?
Yes, we used to, I mean, in better times, we used to go every February and hoping to go again next February for big Doctor Who convention called Gallifrey One. So we're hoping to go again in Feb. Looking at flights today for that actually. So I'm feeling optimistic about next year.
Let's hope it's nice weather. Sam, tell everybody a little bit how to get hold of House of Killers, sorry, and your other projects. How can they get hold of them?
Well, you can go on my website and which is www.samanthaleehowe.co.uk and see what all of my books are because I also do some horror and fantasy under the name Sam Stone as well. And so House of Killers, it's available all good retail stores, online stores, anywhere actually. Just pop onto Amazon or preferably your favorite bookstore and you can pre-order it. It is available at the moment in ebook and it will be out in June 24th in paperback and also in audio, which will be great. And so will Stranger in Our Bed be out on audio on the 24th as well. So that's all very exciting.
Absolutely terrific. Well, listen, Sam, thank you ever so much for having a cup of tea with me. And I look forward to catching up with you again soon. Thanks ever so much.
Maybe we'll have a glass of wine next time. Thank you.